Welcome to the World of Horror podcast with Mom and Mac. This is the podcast where we share our love of international horror. But sometimes my friend Quinn and I get together to talk about whatever we want in our Midwestern accents. Let's move on to our first segment, Christina and Quinn chat. How's it going, Quinn?
Hi, Christina. It's going great. That sounded fake.
You're in lovely Michigan.
Yes, I sure am. This is like I'm going on 3 weeks. Actually, no, it's been 3 weeks I've been here. Just kind of trying to find a car and existing in general.
Did you buy that car?
I did buy that car. Yeah, so I was on the lookout for a car that was exactly like my other car, but then I found out that if I wanted that same car, I really only had 2 years to choose from, and they were all just more expensive than I could afford. So yes, I ended up getting a different car that is sort of similar.
But you love it.
I'm not there yet, but I really like it.
Oh, do you ever
But I
name
will be there.
Do you ever name your cars?
Yes, I do, and I'm going to name this one, but right now it has a name. When I plug in my phone, it says that its name is Scooby.
Oh, no.
I know. I'm like, I don't think that you are a Scooby.
No.
No.
Naming is so weird. Like, I've been sort of feeding this stray cat in my neighborhood, and it's all black, and I'm just calling it Bernie. Like, burn? I don't know. Like,
Was
char?
it in a fire?
No, it's just all black. That's all.
Oh, okay.
So, and
Bernie.
Bernie could be a boy's name or a girl's name. I don't know the sex of this cat. And yeah, I just call it Bernie. It's got a limp.
You know, a name just came to me, and that name is Marge. I don't think that's probably good either, though, for my car.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be like I have a student. I guess I won't say the name of this student, but the student has a name of an Ivy League school. So maybe your car could have like an unusual name or like a name that's usually a last name.
Oh, okay. Is your student's name Harvard?
No.
That's what we used to call Harvey.
Oh, yeah?
It was just a fun joke because
That is fun.
I don't know that he would have ever gotten into Harvard.
No.
No.
No. Maybe as a mascot.
Will you do the Harvey voice?
Okay. It's the same voice I use for all dogs, though. Sorry to tell you that. But it's just kind of a dumb voice.
Harvey not remember his message. I don't know. One time you and I came up with this weird elaborate plan that all dogs had like received messages that they were supposed to give humans.
Right.
And I don't even know where that started or came from.
No idea.
We decided that Rosie's message was never going to be decoded because she was too cute and no one took her seriously. And that Harvey just didn't, quote, remember his message.
Quote. In the lore. I don't remember my message. Poor Harv. He's like the most gorgeous dog on the planet, but dumber than a rock.
He's not smart.
Not smart.
Or he's way smarter and we don't understand it.
No. But my cat's not that smart either, but I love her. She's like the best-hearted cat. She's like the sweetest bear.
She is the sweetest Rosie bear hair.
Yeah. What else is going on? Have you been hanging out at the senior center?
Yes. Yes. I've been hanging out there. I take art classes there on Fridays. And last Friday I went out to lunch with the ladies afterwards.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Who are the ladies? Can you say?
There is, let's see, Verma.
Verma.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's kind of the best. There's a Gladys.
Good.
Lynn, and what is, darn it, I don't remember. There's a lot of them though. There's usually like 20,
Oh.
and they all accept me into their world. And every time I paint, it's all watercolor. So every time, which is something I've never done until I did this. So every time I go, they always come. Everyone comes and looks at mine, and then they say things like, "You're really getting this. Oh, looks like your mom's talent's rubbing off." And it's so cute because like they're not good, my paintings. They're not my style, but they're also very very realistic. So I have a hard time with that. But they're so wonderful. And I think that they were all teachers. I think that they were all like elementary teachers or like probably 90% of them. Mm-hmm. So they take turns teaching the class too.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
I thought of an idea that the next time my mom teaches it, I want her to have them all paint pictures of Rosie.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And then just give them to me. And then I can have like a wall in my guest room of like watercolor portraits of Rosie.
Yes, that's
so all different styles.
Definitely have to do that. Yeah. So cue balls, if you are unaware, if you're new to the show, I'm Christina. This is Quinn. We do a show, doesn't really have anything to do with our other show, the main show, and we both have pets named Rosie, but we spell their names differently.
Yes, which gets confusing sometimes for me when I'm referring to your Rosie.
Yeah.
It takes a minute to think, but for me to think. Yeah, but so I've been doing that. What else? Well, last summer I did that too. Mm-hmm. And the last class that I went to, the director of the senior center, she said, "Okay, well, this is it for you. Next time you come, you're going to have to buy membership." Mm-hmm. So I'm a member now, like an honorary member, but I paid for it. And
I think that's so cool. I love it. I'm kind of jealous actually, because I really like found communities. Like I have my own version of that in my life, but it's just so funny to see like who ends up in the group.
Yeah, it's cool. And I don't know. Yeah, it's just they're all really nice. And the center is cool. They have like all these pool tables and leather couches. It's really nice. They have a pickleball court and they do like aerobics classes. It's really cool.
That's nice.
I know. And it's cool too because like I said, I had never painted watercolor except when maybe I was a kid. And so it's a very new thing to me. So like the whole process is really new. So it is one of the only things that I've identified that actually takes me out of my head because I have to just be like fully enthralled in it and like really figuring out like little details and how to do things and stuff. And it's just so different for me that it successfully takes me out of my head. And, that to me is like worth any amount of money.
Yeah. That's a good thing to find.
Yeah. How have you been?
I've been real good. I've been really, really good. It's really boring because I just get up every day and I make art all day long. That's not true, but I mean, as much as I can. I make art every day. And I also put together a website, gsoglassworks.com, gsoglassworks.com. And I filed papers, and now I am a LLC. And that was about $1,000 that I didn't expect to spend. So I'm slightly anxious about money, but it's fine. And other than that, I've just been staying inside because it's hot as Hades out there. And not looking forward to going back to school, but that's my job. So I guess I'll go.
I'm really proud of you for all the things that you've done. I know you were like, you just didn't kind of know how to begin at one point, and then all of a sudden you have this amazing website, and I don't know. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you so much. I'm proud of me too.
Yay.
Yay. Now I just need people to buy stuff from me because I've spent a lot of money and I need to recoup some of it. But everybody I say that to says, oh, that will happen. So I'm just going to believe that that will happen.
It will happen.
So we are gathered here together today to celebrate the work of one Jesse Plemons, who's one of our favorite actors. And we thought, why not? Why not celebrate the man? He's kind of having a moment.
He's been having a moment for years, but yeah.
Actually, yeah, he has.
Yeah, he reminds me of it reminds me of the moments that John C. Reilly can have, and it's funny because like we obviously appreciate this type because we've done a John C. Reilly sode, but it's one of those things where if you really take note, you'll find he's popping up in every nominated film all of a sudden, and it's like, what the heck? You know? So I don't know. But yeah, we love him. We love Kirsten Dunst. We've talked a lot about her before. But I mean, he's got to be pretty great in reality if he snagged our goddess Kirsten. So
yes. Well, I thought about it, and they were both child actors, and so I just wonder if that was one of the things that they bonded over. But I don't know that much about their relationship, just that they met on Fargo, and then they started seeing each other, and they have a couple kids together now, and I think they're officially married to each other now.
Okay. I don't know why I just assumed. They're different. They're different ages, aren't they?
Yeah, he's, I think, 6 years younger than she is.
Yes.
So she's like your age, and he's 6 years younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just watched a couple of things that we thought would be fun. So not really like any super, super serious Jesse Plemons rules, but like a fun one, a quirky, fun slash serious, and then Fargo. But so we're looking at game night. We're looking at a specific Black Mirror episode called USS Callister, and then just talking a little bit about what he did in Fargo season 2.
So what would you like to start with, Quinn?
Let's start with game night.
Okay. So game night is a pretty funny comedy.
Yeah, I don't know what has happened to me in my life, but I mean, I've documented a lot of it on the podcast, but I don't find myself drawn to comedies very often. And it's not because I don't like to laugh. Like, I love funny stuff, but like a straight up comedy is not typically something that I can guarantee I'll walk away from enjoying. I feel like they so lean on tropes, and it's just the same thing over and over again. I'm in love with game night. I saw it when it came out. I watched it several times since then, and then just watched it the other day. And I don't know, it doesn't have the highest score on IMDb, but I don't understand why. And I think that the movie would be really funny without Jesse Plemons, but he fucking like he steals it. He steals it. And there's so many great actors and actresses they're all on their game. They're all doing amazing things. And it could exist in a world without Jesse Plemons or like his specific character, and it'd still be good. But it's so good because of him.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing about him, I think, is he takes, a very small role and he makes it memorable. And it's hard for me to imagine date night without him in it. Sorry, game night. There's another film called Date Night, and I think it's Steve Carell and Tina Fey.
Yeah.
It's not as good. This is Jason Basement. Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams, who have really great chemistry.
Yeah, they really do.
And
Yeah,
I did
and
not
so
know that she was funny.
oh god, she's so funny. I love well, I mean, I'm with the rest of the choir or whatever, but I absolutely love her in Mean Girls and everything she's done. But I mean, I really like when that came out, and her Regina George is just flawless. It's so great. And yeah, she's hilarious. So the film is about this couple who love games. They're very competitive. They meet each other playing a trivia game, and then they have game nights every Friday. And they have like a core group of friends that come over every Friday, and things kind of get a little screwy when Jason Bateman's brother comes back into town, who he is pretty competitive with. And he's like, I'm gonna do my own game night, and he plans kind of like a sort of a like a murder mystery type thing, or like a Taken type of game. And it sort of has layers upon layers of, once you get to the end, you don't really know who's being played and whatnot, but it works pretty well. And then, God, we also have Sharon Horgan, who's
Yeah.
like,
Your favorite.
She can do no wrong. She's she's one of my favorites. Yes. Um, and yeah, Jesse Plemons plays the neighbor who was kind of in this core group because of his ex-wife, who they were more friends with than him. And he's kind of just like a creep that hangs around, and he's also a police officer, and he doesn't really seem to take his uniform off. And when he sees them, initially bringing in some bags of chips, he's like, are you having a game night? And then it kind of creates this sort of tense little scene where they're trying to kind of fool him into telling him that they're not having a game night, and then they have their friends park in different places. And anyways, he ends up being such an integral part of the film. But yeah, I just don't know how it could have worked with someone else, just because he can play. I think he can do a lot, just about anything, I really think.
Yeah, I mean, he's very serious. I mean, the character's very serious because he's heartbroken and he just wants to belong, and he's being rejected and he's just like not able to really handle it. But spoiler, he becomes the hero of the story, and it's it's a wonderful resolution to the story.
Yes, he's also throughout a good part of the movie, when you do see him, he's carrying his dog.
Yes.
Who is like a little, I don't know, I would call that a Scotty dog, but it's some sort of terrier.
Yes. It's a great cast. It's a great movie. And I mean, it's also got Lamorne Morris and Billy Magnuson in it.
I love
And
him.
one of my husbands, Kyle Chandler, is in it.
Yeah, so what did you think watching this in terms of, I know you just kind of went through a Friday Night Lights era in
Yes.
your life.
Yeah.
So,
I thought that was so cool because Kyle and Jesse were on a first name basis, obviously. We're both in Friday Night Lights. And Jesse Plemons, he's in one of the very first scenes of Friday Night Lights. And he's the comedic relief to, who's that actor that you like? The guy who's in
Pat Guilford.
yeah. So he's Zach Gilford's friend, and Zach Gilford plays this sort of unlikely quarterback character. And Jesse Plemons ends up on the football team too, but he's a real sweet, goofy, funny, nerdy guy. And that was really, I think, I heard him in an interview say that there was life before and after Friday Night Lights. So then they both show up in this film together, and I'm just like so happy.
Yeah, Kyle Chandler looks amazing in this film.
Yeah, he really does. He's delicious.
Yeah, he really is. Oof.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything else you want to say about game night?
Um, I love I love the whole like creepy rich person fight club too that goes on that like kind of gets hinted at in the first couple of minutes that it's like this dream of one of the characters. He knows it's happening because he's read it on a blog, and then it happens. And then I is that Daniel Houston who
Danny Houston.
Danny Houston, who plays that sort of mob guy who is running this weird rich person fight club. And I actually really appreciate the egg chase at the end of that scene that goes on and on and on and on and on. And it's like such a ridiculous chase scene, but it works sort of.
Yeah.
And it's endearing.
Yeah. It's a really funny film. I mean, I'm not sure how it did at the time, but it's, it holds up. It doesn't have any problematic stuff, I don't think. And it's just really a good time.
Yeah, it really is. And again, as I mentioned before, I'm not apt to love a comedy. I don't know why. I don't think that makes me sound good, but I'm not apt to go into a comedy thinking that this is going to be it for me and I'll be satisfied, because I'm just not usually satisfied. And this one is watchable again and again. And I wish I would have just like bought it instead of rented it, because it's like a feel good go-to movie. That's actually like sort of a nice go-to movie instead of my normal ones, which are sort of like Rosemary's Baby and The Shining. So I'll take this one.
Well, should we move on to Fargo?
Yeah.
So Fargo season 2 also has a banging. No, it has a really great cast.
Yeah.
It's got Kirsten, as we said, Patrick Wilson, Gene Smart, Ted Danson, Bokeem Woodbine. It's also got a person we just mentioned on the podcast, on the regular show, Angus Sampson, who is in 100 Bloody Acres, and one of my faves, Jeffrey Donovan. It also has a very short part by Kieran Culkin.
Yeah.
He doesn't last very long.
Yeah, he's great in it. I'm trying to think of let's see, why am I drawing a blank? Kristen Milotti, I love her so much. And she's kind of like she's like a fun little connective thread with these 3 pieces that we're watching. She's not in Game Night, but she is in USS Callister.
Yes.
And also Ryan Magnuson is in USS Callister. And then she and him, right?
No, yes. I don't think so. Is he? Is he in the office?
He plays the villain in USS Callister that he kind of casts as the villain with the long hair that he.
Oh, that's Billy. That's Billy Magnuson?
Billy Magnuson. Oh my God, I'm stupid. But yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I wonder if these people are all friends.
Yeah. And then he and Kristen Milotti were in that show that I loved called Made for Love. And that was 2 seasons, and I just adored it. And so I feel like there's something going on.
So one thing I know about you, Quinn, is you love a story about a couple on the rocks.
Huh.
So whenever you do. So whenever there's a story like The Resort, whenever there's a story about like a couple on you also love Kristen Milotti. I mean,
I do.
You'll watch anything that she does. But
I will.
Who does she play in Fargo? She plays the wife.
But she's
Patrick Wilson's wife.
Unrecognizable, She's kind of like got this bowl cut, and she's got cancer in the show as well. So she is pretty like pale and yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I don't know how and she's great in that role.
Great.
And she kind of has to be because she's the mother of
Molly.
somebody in the other cast
Yes.
so that's pretty cool.
I was
So
actually watching the first episode with my mom yesterday, and I was trying to explain to her the first season of Fargo, but she could not get past that this wasn't Fargo the movie. And then she's like, "Are they just all like seasons of renditions of the movie?" And I was like, "Sort of, but no, but not really at all." So not really, sort of, but I don't know. She said, "This is a dark world."
yeah, she is correct.
Yeah, I also had her watch Vertigo a couple weeks ago, and she said,
She
"I
did.
just don't care for it."
I just don't care for it, Karen. I just don't care for it. Quinn, I just don't care for
I
it.
just don't care for it. He's like, "That's fair.
You're
That's
like,
fair
this
enough."
is like my favorite anything, my favorite movie.
I know. And she was like, "How do you even get people to watch this in your class?" I was like, "Well, I make them, but I really don't watch this very often." And I said, "But I usually set it up and I say, this is such a whimsical experience and you have to really throw yourself into it and let yourself be lost in the imagery because there's not a lot of spoken words." And she goes, "Ew, do you really say that to students?" It's like, yes. She was like,
I really
"Okay."
think I would really challenge you to do time crimes, right? Chronos
Ooh.
Criminus, and then do a bunch of Hitchcock stuff. But I think that one, along with Vertigo, would be super fun.
Yeah. Yeah, you've suggested that pairing before.
I know.
I
But
know.
it's not just Vertigo. There are a lot of quotes to other, you know. Oh, and then you should also watch High Anxiety.
Oh, yes. Yes. And you've said that before too with
I
Vertigo.
know, I know, I know.
Smart. Smart,
But
smart, smart.
you probably won't do those things.
Well, I have a hard time executing Vertigo these days with
Well,
students just because it's tough.
you could probably even just do a side by side with some of those scenes just to like whet their
Yeah.
appetites. I don't know, Chronos Criminais might be a little too much because it's like time travel and like it's kind of twisty turny.
Yeah.
But back to Fargo.
Yeah.
So what happens in Fargo is there's this crazy opening scene, which you kind of just have to see. And at the end of it, Kirsten Dunst's character, she runs over Kieran Culkin's character, and she keeps going. And then we find out that she's married to Jesse Plemons' character.
Yes, who is a works in a butcher shop and is just like kind of just like he's a really good person. He's pretty boring, but
Mm-hmm.
he's a good person, you can tell. And he's kind of he foils her in a way that like he's kind of offsetting her quirkiness, but also like she's really unpredictable and that she did that in the first place. And then I love it because I just watched the first episode, but I love it those scenes where she's putting on makeup and like rubbing the blood off of her collar, and she's just like, "Oh, I just gotta get that smudge," and it just feels so. I don't know. It just feels so surreal.
Yeah, she's pretty profoundly mentally ill, I would say.
Yeah.
And this takes place during the 70s, and she's all about wanting to become actualized. And there's this predatory lesbian she works with, who's like trying to get her to leave her husband and go to this like seminar out of town. And so there's all that stuff kind of going on with Kirsten Dunst. And she is not happy with her day-to-day life. She wants to escape it, whereas Jesse Plemons' character is very content with
Yeah.
his daily life.
Yeah. And this is one of those roles for him where he plays kind of the straight guy because I don't think he usually does. I mean, there are definitely times, but his most memorable stuff is when he's out there for me. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so he's great in this, but he's playing the straight guy, but he's good at that too.
I mean, I think he's just pretty good generally.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a professional.
He's a pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
For
heard
sure.
this recently. I heard this interview with him and Lorgos Lanthimos because they've just come out with Kinds of Kindness, which I guess are three interconnected stories where the actors played different roles in them. Um, and the interviewer asked, I don't know, I don't know if I liked them more after the interview or liked them less, because the interviewer was like, could you watch these stories out of order? And Lanthimos was like, I mean, you could, but that's not how I intended them. And so I don't know why you would want to do that, but sure, you could. And then um, I guess they have something else coming up, like coming down the pike.
Wow.
And so the interviewer was like, I guess you're not going to tell me anything about that. And they were like, no, I guess we aren't. And it was like, they were just kind of being difficult and kind of like, we're the cool kids and you get to interview us. And
Yeah.
that's
Was
kind
it
of the impression I
him
got.
and Plemons?
Yeah.
Mm.
And then of course, he brought up like Civil War, and he wasn't promoting Civil War. So I think that Plemons must be tired of talking about that character, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. That
Yeah.
role. Woo.
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 Would you say that it's worth the price of admission to see that scene with Jesse Plemons?
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
too.
I enjoyed that ride. I
Me
mean,
too.
if I went back and watched it, there were some things that like I found to be not connected in ways that pissed me off. But I will say without a doubt, like I enjoyed that ride.
I agree with you. I would watch it again. I
Yeah,
thought
me too.
after I watched it once, I'm like, that's good. Maybe one more time. But then I watched it with you, and now I've had a little room away from it, and I think I would watch it again.
Yeah, I would definitely watch it again.
Yeah. So, Blowhose and Cue Balls, if you haven't seen Civil War, last we checked, I think didn't we have to buy it?
Yes.
Oh, no. Yeah, I
That
think
was
no,
that
we
was
had to
a
rent
month.
it for $20.
Yeah, that would have been like a month ago though, so it's possible that it's out there or
Yeah.
at least cheaper to rent probably.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah, plus I mean you just get to see Kirsten Dunst for 2 hours
Yeah.
and it's like a toned down no makeup type role, which is
Yeah.
interesting. And she just like I mean I think it's quite obvious that you and I would kind of watch her take the garbage out. So,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Like we did watch her like describe her house in that one video. So,
Oh, I think I've watched that video several times. I'm like,
well, you're quite in love with her. I mean, I appreciate her, but I think you really have a thing for her.
yeah, and I do think it's really from Interview with the Vampire because that I kind of grew up on that movie, so I feel like that movie formed a little bit of who I am now in a more realistic way. But yeah, and I just was just awestruck by her in that movie, as with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt as well, and
I
Antonio
mean,
Banderas.
these things, like we just covered Brazil on the main show, and I saw that in my teenage years, and that really had a profound effect on me. I mean, to the extent that like I watched all the Terry Gilliam films and they all had a profound impact on me. I mean, I have to go back and watch Fisher King because last time I tried, I couldn't get past Jeff Bridges. But and I don't really like Robin Williams. I really don't. But I really loved that film, The Fisher King.
Yeah.
And I never watched. Well, I watched The Adventures of Baron Munchausen like once, but my thing with 12 Monkeys. And anyway, so I love Terry Gilliam and that stuff. And Time Bandits was even earlier in my life. And that had such a major impact on like the way I look at the world. And it's a very cynical, awful, you know,
Yeah.
because it comes out of, uh, Monty Python sort of sensibility. And a lot of that is kind of like dark, black, humor and stuff. And
Yeah,
I like that.
I like that too. Would you suggest, like, I'm not as versed on Terry Gilliam as you, I mean, in any way. So would you suggest going down that road for someone who's kind of just seen, I've seen Time Crimes because we watched it for Squad, I believe.
Yeah, that's not Gilliam though. But
Oh, why
have
do
you
I?
seen 12 Monkeys?
Yes, I've seen 12 Monkeys. I've seen Fisher King,
Have
and
you
I've seen
seen
Brazil.
have you seen Time Bandits?
Time Bandits. That's the one we watched for Squad. Why do I get them mixed up with Time Crimes? These are two of your favorites, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I get the two mixed up.
Maybe if there's a movie with time in the title, I like it. And if
Actually,
there's
I don't
a
think I've seen Time Bandits. I
no,
think I
I
saw
don't think
Time
you've seen Time
Crimes.
Bandits. Yeah, I don't think so. Time Bandits came out in '82, I think, and it's all the Monty Python guys, and it involves a little boy who's in a very has a very very bad home life, and he just goes through time and has all these adventures through time. And Sean Connery is in one of the scenes, and Sean Connery looks so good, so good. Um, yeah, it's great, but it's sad. So
Yeah.
I like that stuff. So no, I don't think you've seen it because I don't think Mac has seen it. But that was a really long tangent.
Yeah. No, but I got them confused in my head for some reason, too. So
Well,
thank
they
you. I
both have
appreciate
time
that.
in the title. So let's talk about Jesse Plemons' character. I don't remember his name. Um, but as you said, he works at the butcher shop. He doesn't own the butcher shop. He is, he's just a workaday kind of guy.
Ed
And
Blumquist.
Ed,
Ed Blumquist.
yeah.
Yeah.
So his wife comes home and she's run into this man, and she says that she's run into a deer. I mean, it's very obvious that she's run into a person because, the windshield is all beat to hell and there's blood all over it. And on top of that, Kieran Culkin's character um, actually fell through the windshield. And so he's actually in their garage. Um, and Ed discovers him one day.
Yeah. And just, it's hard for him to put it together, like, exactly how this could have happened and how she could have. And he just keeps saying, why didn't you go to the hospital? Why didn't you go to the hospital? And yeah, again, his character is kind of the straight guy for sure in this world.
Yeah. He's very happy. He wants to have kids with her. She's not that interested in that. And he just kind of doesn't understand any of that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a tragic story because Ed ends up dying. And it's really only after that that Kirsten Dunst's character appreciates him.
Yeah, there's a scene in the first episode where they're sitting down to eat their hamburger helper and tater tots. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm going to take over the butcher shop and then we're going to have a couple of kids and raise a family. And maybe you can get on full time at the salon. And then it just cuts to her and she just says, yeah, we talked about that. And it's so, because he's going through this heartfelt, this dream that they did seem to conceptualize together. But you find out later, reasons why she's kind of drawing back. But also she's got this guy in the garage that she's had this, intense experience and made some bad decisions, which is really what Fargo is all about.
Yes.
The consequences of your bad decisions.
Yes.
It was very relatable, but also that relationship, that dinner scene struck me this time. I guess you're right. Like, I do like couples in peril, but I relate to it, and I think we probably all do, but I relate to that sort of disconnect so much. And I think when it's done well, it's just very striking. And I think it was done well just at that dinner scene, even. just to name one
Yeah.
place. But
And I mean, I think it must be difficult. I'm not an actor, and I think I'm just fascinated by chemistry between actors and how you can have somebody who's a really appealing person, like say Patrick Wilson. I would think he would have chemistry with everybody, but I'm sure he doesn't. I'm just like fascinated how people, come together and they're able to act convincingly like a couple or
yeah,
not. But these two really do. I don't know. I mean, as I understand it, they talked a lot, but I mean, even still, there's just like a magic, in putting them together.
yeah. And so when watching it, I mentioned to my mother who was watching it with me, I was like, they're married in real life. I mean, I don't know that they're married in real life, but you said you think they just got married,
I
but they've
think
been
they did.
together. They've had
Yeah.
a relationship since the show. And she was like, "What? Why would she be with him?" you know, but
Yeah.
he does have a face. It's just like John C. Reilly. He's got a unique face that is very lovable, but it's very unique. And I think it's why he can pull off a lot of things too, because he acts with his face too. He
Yeah.
uses that uniqueness and those unique features to really, kick out a role, I think. And I think that's maybe part of the reason too that he's so enigmatic, because he's using all of it.
But I think since he's lost the 50 pounds or whatever he's lost, he looks younger and he looks, I wouldn't say I've ever been attracted to him or anything like that, but I feel like he looks so different now.
Yeah, he does look different. I think some of like the features in his face maybe like they're no longer hidden, so they're
Yeah.
pointy and kind of like objectively attractive. It's very
Yes.
different. Yeah, you're right.
And I mean, when I saw him in Friday Night Lights, he wasn't sort of fully formed yet. He
Yeah,
was like, that early 20s kind of, he still kind of has like baby fat and stuff. And so now he's, you know, late 30s and, this is the way his face is now. And I don't know. But
yeah,
yeah. And I think it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens with his career because I feel like, in Fargo, I mean, he really fits, the Fargo aesthetic because he's, chunkier guy in
yeah,
that. And, he's just a sweet, chunky guy.
yeah.
And he isn't chunky anymore. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with his career.
Yeah, and I don't think he was really chunky in game night, but his face wasn't pointy like this now. Like
Yeah.
I know I'm not saying that right. I'm calling his face pointy, but you get what I mean.
Angular.
Angular. Yeah,
We get it.
get it.
And I think I didn't see the one that he was in, um, Love, Love and Death. I didn't watch that because there was another series that was about that story, but I think that was the one where he was skinny for the first time or thin. One time I called a man who had lost a bunch of weight skinny and he was really offended. And I'm
Well,
like, a
welcome to the
woman would
world of
love
women.
to be described as skinny,
Yeah.
but he was like skinny. I was all upset. But um
I said that a man smelled lovely the other day, and he practically threw a fit too. I mean, granted, it was a stranger, and it probably is weird to be like, "Oh my God, you smell so lovely," like by some random weirdo walking up to you.
I
But he
gotta
was like,
say,
okay, very, very awkward.
yes.
So that's just a note to folks to not go with your gut talking to strangers.
Right.
Because I go with my gut, and oftentimes it leads to awkward experiences.
Also, you are very like olfactorily led, and I
Yes.
don't think most of the world is. So that's like you experience smells in a way that I've never met anybody else.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to take that. Yeah, I did ask him what was going on. What, like, I was like, is that sandalwood? I feel like there's a little bit of patchouli, but like also just amber, but it's not fully amber. He just stared at me.
Yeah.
And I was, then again, it was at an estate sale and he was working there. And then again, I had several other interactions with him. And the last interaction I had was just like, yeah, I really want to know what that smell is. My friend that I was with was like, when we got outside, she's like, what happened in there? What happened to you? No, I just really want to know what that is.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably his deodorant. I mean, he doesn't even probably, who
No,
knows?
because this other lady goes, oh, yeah, Marvin loves his oils. And I was like, oh, oils.
Well, he could have told you then if he's like intentionally putting oil on himself.
He was intentionally putting oil on himself. He did not like it that I said it, that he smelled lovely. And he did not like me to continue speaking about the smell. Fragile. Asking.
What do they call it? Fragile masculinity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get over it, men.
Come on, Marvin.
Marvin.
Hitch up your pants and take it.
You could. What? I think there's more to the story.
Well, I was in like a very haunted house that the whole time I was like, this is bad. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. Which also annoyed my friend. And I feel like that annoys you too.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't feel good in here. Something is very wrong. I'm getting very hot in my knees. And I'm also feeling as though I need to be jumping off of this banister, but I don't want to do that. And she's like, I think that you like fried out in there. I think you like had a major disconnect. And I don't know. I don't think you were there really. I was like, yeah.
Oh, I think you were there. I just feel like you need to either shield yourself or not go into places like that.
I know. What happens is that it's like a moth to a flame.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. All right. So let's get back to Ed Lundquist, and then we can talk about his character on the USS Callister. But Ed we see him in different interactions. He interacts with Patrick Wilson in a very memorable scene where he is trying to grind up the body of Kieran Culkin's character, and he loses a finger at some point. And so there's this like Patrick Wilson, who's the sheriff, comes into the shop at night, which is very suspicious. And Lundquist is completely fixated on this finger. He's not really sure where it is, like in his face. So that's really great. And then at the end, he does have a confrontation with his wife, where he's just like, we have a really good life, and you keep trying to run away from it. And that's very sad.
Yeah.
Because he's absolutely right.
Yeah, but, yeah.
And sometimes people, especially when they're young, they get mismatched.
Yeah. And especially, because this is the 70s, so it's a specific time in history and men's role versus women's roles. And so, like, they're very, they were what they were. And, like, this little bit of, fire and this, like, self-actualization and stuff. And, like, I can see that very, very easily, too. I don't know why I identify with the crazy one, but, but I definitely, he is just such a good guy in this though. And his whole purpose is really just protecting her from herself, from her bad decisions.
Yeah, right. If it weren't for him, oh gosh, we can only imagine where she'd be.
Yep.
So let's talk about his character in the USS Callister, which was a longer than usual episode of Black Mirror. And It's basically like a short movie. It's the first episode of series 4, season 4. And as you mentioned, your girlfriend, Kristen Milotti, is in this, and she has got quite a big role. And my boyfriend, Jimmy Simpson, is also in this, and he has quite a big role.
Yeah.
Also, Billy Magnuson, Michaela Cole,
Love her.
and Aaron Paul is the voice at the end. And then, of course, our guy, Jesse Plemons, plays Robert Daly.
Yeah. And just to get this out of the way, I did read just little, facts on the IMDb page, and Kirsten Dunst is in it too. She walks through it. She walks through a scene near the beginning, and you can clearly see her if you know it's her. Like, it's very clear it's her. I mean, it might not be something you pick out, but that was kind of cool.
I sure didn't.
Yeah, I didn't either. I looked at that IMDb fact page and then was like, "Woo, I want to see it." Yeah, so he and Jimmy Simpson sort of are these partners at a company. It's a tech company, a gaming company, and it's kind of comes out that he was the brains and the creative behind it, and then Jimmy Simpson was kind of like the finances and the face of it. And along the way, Jimmy Simpson kind of took over and became more really the face of it. And even though they're partners, nobody in the office really respects Daly. People are like, there's even a point where Kristen Milotti, who is this new employee at the company, comes in and she very much respects him for this code that he's written. And someone says Michaela Cole says something like, well, how you liking it here? You like the boss? And she's like, well, yeah, but there's actually two bosses. And she's like, how do you say, what do you mean? And he's like,
Yeah.
Daily. She's like, Daily. And he's like, oh, she says, sort of, so like some employees don't even see him as, they just kind of look over him and laugh about him and, joke around about him. And he seems to be like a really hard worker who just kind of not craves, but wants to be respected and wants to have relationships with his employees, coworkers, friends, whatever. And no one really seems to. And he seems pretty much on his own. Yeah.
So he has this fantasy world where he actually goes into the game, and he has created clones of all the people in the office. And it's kind of hard for me to understand, but that's okay. You just kind of have to go with it sometimes with Black Mirror.
Yeah.
But he has taken the DNA off of like coffee cup lids or like lollipops or all these things. And then he has cloned these people. And in the game, it's sort of like the original Star Trek. And he is doing an amazing William Shatner impression.
Yeah, he's the captain of the USS Callister, and all of these coworkers, and including Simpson, his partner, he puts in there and kind of just has them, he kind of like tortures them in a way, but also just they all respect him, and every game ends with "for he's a jolly good fellow," and they're all like cheering for him, and he kisses all of the women. But then you find out that these characters within the game are also, they understand that they are put there. They understand that they're a version or a copy of themselves, and they understand that they're there to play the game and to make him happy. And they've tried to get out of it in different ways, and there really isn't a way, because he will retaliate by making them into monsters or then dropping them off on planets that have no other inhabitants or something like that. And one of the guys in the office who seemingly played some prank on him once, which is Billy Magson's character, he makes him be the villain of the game, or of the universe, the space universe. And so everything is really all about just killing him, but he never will kill him. he's always he kind of goes to the very edge of it, and then he backs up, and thus torturing these people further by making them live in this game longer. And when Kristen Milioti's character comes in, she's, again, she knows who he is. She respects what he's done in the past. But once he overhears other people talking about him to her. He takes a coffee cup and takes the DNA, puts her in the game, and she's like, so you're actually seeing somebody wake up in this world, and she's like, what the fuck is this? And everyone in the world sort of explains it to her, and she kind of just tries to think of a way to outsmart this system.
And she does a great job in this episode, because in the real world, she's kind of fawning all over this guy. And that moment you were talking about, I think it's Michaela Cole, is like, do you like him? And she's like, oh, no, it isn't like that. I like his mind. I don't like, and that there was a comment earlier where he said he wanted like a skinny vanilla latte or something. And somebody said, oh, that's good because, and then just like stops himself. But it's to say, you're fat. So,
Yeah.
That's a good call. You shouldn't, have those extra calories. And so he's balding, and he's just, he's just this chunky balding loser in
Yeah.
the real world. So this is a way for him to get his own back, inside the game.
Yeah, and you find out that Jimmy Simpson, who is his partner, he was the first character put in this world. And through the early days of this world, he found out that what Daly could do is he also had a lollipop of Jimmy Simpson's son. So he put the son in the world and just kind of like threw him out into space. And so Jimmy Simpson is like, I can't ever do anything bad because he'll bring Tommy back in the game and then he'll kill him in front of me. And I can't take that again. So he's apt to put the brakes on Kristen Milioti's plans whenever she comes up with an idea. But eventually they come up with an idea, it's like really, I think, something that you said is that you don't really fully understand any of this. Of course we don't, because it is like set in the future, like a kind of familiar future, which is all the Black Mirrors are. But she comes up with this plan to kind of to take control of the ship while he's somewhere elsewhere and sail through or soar through a black hole, essentially killing these characters. But they find that to be a fate better than remaining on this ship, just being, part of this guy's accessory world kind of thing. But in the end, they are successful, but they don't die. They live, and then they're kind of in the actual game, which is publicly played. So this version of the game is his own version. It's hidden away. It doesn't exist in the actual game, but then they're put into the actual game, and then seemingly they can make their own decisions and whatnot. But it also leaves him inside of the game as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, what is inferred is that he's inside of the game and kind of like is just in space floating. So thus will eventually he will actually physically die, right? Because he would just be sort of tuned into the game. They have these little beads that he puts on his temples, and that kind of transplants him from the real world into the game, into like the virtual reality. So then that's kind of what's assumed. And it's funny because this has always been my favorite Black Mirror episode. And I always remember thinking, that was so fun. What a fun episode. This time watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is one of the darkest ones, actually.
Yeah.
And I don't remember it being this dark. Because essentially, they not only, fuck with him in the game, but they kill him in real life.
They kill him, yeah. No, it kind of does a switcheroo on you, because the opening scene is pretty fun, because he's doing his William Shatner impression, and then it shifts and you see him in the real world, and it's such a jarring difference that it's almost like comedic. And then, of course, charming Kristen Milotti comes on the scene. So you're sort of like swept into this episode, but it is like really, really grim in places, especially like when Michaela Cole is turned into a monster. She looks like she's genuinely being tortured. And
Yes. Yes. And there is a random monster on a different planet too when he's fighting the villain who they remember as being like in marketing or something, and she was someone that sort of rebelled, and so turning her into to this monster as well. Yeah.
but it's a great episode. I mean, and I think I'm not like a Black Mirror expert, but that um, kind of, those candies, I think they're called dots. This is really old timey, but
No, I
they
know
were
that. Yep.
on paper. So they've got these like dot kind of candies that are the like game things, game activators, but they use that same kind of trope in like a lot of episodes, like San Junipero and the
Yeah.
entire history of you, and the other one where it's like the guys are like gay or they're not gay. I don't know if they're playing a game, and
Oh yeah, that one's great.
yeah. So it's that. The entire history of you, I think, is the most famous one. That one actually might be my favorite, but this one is great. It's really up there. I've seen
Yeah.
it now like 4 times, like in quick succession. So I
Yeah.
really like it a lot.
It is really good. I like this one. I really like Nosedive for some reason. I think it's pretty great. And I like San Junipero. That really is the beautiful story of Black Mirror. Not
Did you
story
show
of
this
Black Mirror, but
one? Did you show this one to your students?
no, because I wanted to try and only show ones that would be within the space of the class period. But I would actually this one would be great. I think that it's also one of those that is kind of like there's no sex or
Right.
real violence, but there's so many questions that it poses, like what based on control and things like that and power. And but yeah, no, I would show this one. I didn't because I felt like it was just too long, but yeah.
I think I might do White Bear this next semester. Um, that's one of my favorites. But one of the topics that I want to talk about is punishment. And it's something that I think is really interesting in terms of like, what do we do with our prisoners? And, but I also try to bring it down to like, what would you do if your kid was, 16 and took the car without permission and drunkenly drove it and crashed it into a tree and didn't hurt any people and didn't hurt himself, but like totally trashed the car? Like, what would you do with that kid? You know?
Yeah.
So it brings up like interesting conversations, and that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
So, Quinn, any final thoughts on Jesse Plemons?
No, I
No?
just I just love him. And I
And he's
will
so
watch.
young.
He's so young. He's got everything ahead of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested in watching what he does. So
I think it'd be great if he just becomes a Yorgos Lanthimos, kid,
yeah,
part of
that
the
would be
pack.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way Lanthimos just kind of like collects actors and then like, puts them in different things like
Yeah.
Colin Farrell and I
Mm.
don't know, Emma Stone now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I guess we should wrap it up, Quinny.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me today to have this
Oh my
conversation.
gosh, thanks for having me.
Any idea what we're going to talk about next?
No.
Well, has enough time passed so that we can talk about Hereditary?
Ugh. Yes. Enough time has passed.
Okay. So maybe we'll talk about Hereditary next. And I also want to talk to you about Lady in a Cage.
Yes. The
And
wino. The
the
wino.
weirdo. But I'm sure whatever we talk about, it'll be a wonderful conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome.